Hey everybody, how y'all doing? I hope you're all well and happy and healthy. I am sadly 14 months into long COVID and I still cannot work. I can't teach guitar. I'm not able to speak for an hour. I'm not able to speak for a half hour. I'm out of breath after about 20 minutes and exhausted. Still have difficulty just walking down the street to the pharmacy. Can't take my little girl to school. All of that stuff. It's horrible. There are millions of people in the world just like me. Many of them are far more ill than I am. So give them your thoughts, okay? Sadly, because of the long COVID, it also means that I haven't been able to make videos as often as I would like. Partly because I always did a fairly basic setup with a little light, with a light and one or two microphones. Run them into the DAW and then do a quick mix and put them out that way. But honestly, I just don't have the physical energy to be able to do that right now. But I thought I would do a little video today, and you know what? Just iPhone on a stand or balanced on your desk against a book. If it's good enough for Leland Sklar, it's good enough for me. Now, most of my audience are guitar players. You're probably saying, who the hell is Leland Sklar? Lee Sklar is one of the greatest bass players of all time, who I've been watching a little bit lately because of my 50th birthday this week. I decided it's time for me to get back into bass again. I was never really a bass player, but I bought a bass a couple of years ago and eventually decided it wasn't the bass I wanted to buy, and I never played it. So that bass is being moved on to a music school, and I bought myself as a 50th birthday present to me this beautiful Sterling by Music Man short scale StingRay. The average bass guitar is 34 inches in length from the nut to the bridge. This one is just 30. It's a short scale. It's easier for me to handle physically, which is of course important to me with long COVID, but also it's just more convenient because I'm sitting in a house or an apartment. I'm sitting in a small Paris apartment where everything happens in the living room. My office is in the living room, our dining table is in the living room. The laundry gets hung in the living room. Welcome to Paris. So yes, the short scale bass just makes a lot more sense. And I really love the old StingRay design, and I always have done. And yes, I'm an Ernie Ball Music Man fan, and I have been for years, so it just kind of made sense to me, In the end, I opted, partly because of availability. There's not that many of these available right now where I live. I opted for black with the red shell pickguard, which I'm not a particular fan of the red shell pickguard, but that's going to be replaced with a beautiful moonstone guard, and I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, I wanted to tell you a little bit about this bass because there are some amazing points to it, and there are also some pretty poor points to it. And as I speak to you, I'm actually waiting for a response back from the online retailer that I bought it from here in France as to whether they can help me out here without having to return the bass. Because the truth is, I love this bass, but it has a few issues. So let's talk about the good parts first. One, the setup on this bass right out of the box was perfect. I mean, perfect. I've been tweaking guitars and instruments for a long time. I am a professional in the field of guitar tech. There's no question about that. And I've worked in the largest music store in Paris as their warehouse tech, taking care of all of the instruments. At any one point in time, we had anywhere between 800 and 1,200 instruments in stock. I saw 4,500 instruments in 1 year. I've been doing this a long time. I know good instruments, and I know what the setup specs for the various manufacturers are. This bass is beautiful. Oh, holy crap, it plays so beautifully. Right out of the box, the string action was perfect. The neck relief was perfect. Even the height of the strings at the nut was really, really good for any instrument of any price. It's great. Plays beautifully right out of the box. It looks like the fret level was done pretty well too. If I get the action down super crazy low, there's one or two frets that are a hair on the high side, but that's nothing to complain about at any price. This is really great. I love the hardware. The bridge on this one is really great. It's a real Music Man style bridge. It's heavy duty. It's not the cheap, thin thing that comes on the cheapest of the Sterling by Music Man basses. This bass is completely passive, The StingRay bass guitars originally came with the 2-band active EQ and the volume control, and subsequently that moved to 3-band EQ. But this bass, just like the more recent American-made Music Man short scale StingRay bass, is also passive. As it turns out, there's a little story behind that. Sterling Ball and Dudley Gimple, who have worked together for pretty much the entire history of Ernie Ball Music Man. Dudley Gimple was the chief designer and engineer at Valley Arts Guitars. And when they closed back in the 1980s, he moved right over to Music Man within a month of Ernie Ball buying them. So Dudley and Sterling Ball have been working together on most of those designs for such a long time. This was the last design they worked on together as chief designers. There was the short scale StingRay, and that includes the electronics package, which is pretty special. We have what looks like a standard StingRay humbucking pickup with neodymium magnets, not ceramic or alnicos. These are neodymium magnets. As I said, this is a passive bass, so there's no active EQ in here. What we have is a standard bass tone control, and here we have a three-way selector, which selects this pickup either in series mode, in single coil mode, or in parallel mode. So that gives you three really distinct, unique sounds. Parallel mode is what we think of as the classic StingRay sound, and that's right in here. So we standard treble roll-off tone control, the three-way switch, and here we have a push pot, which has, they call it a boost. It's not a boost. It's actually a small volume cut, and you get full volume when you push on the boost button. And that's kind of useful, actually. I kind of like that. You know, if you want to step up and take a little solo, you've got that little extra 3 or 4 dB in there. And also it helps to balance out the difference in volume between series humbucking mode and the single coil and parallel modes. And this bass sounds as beautiful as it plays. I absolutely love it. I'm just playing through my little Yamaha desktop amplifier here, but I'll give you a small idea. I have the tone control set all the way up right now. Here we're on parallel mode. And here's single coil mode. And now we go into humbucking series mode. Okay, roll off a little bit of the bass, and let's go back to parallel mode, put the volume boost on. You know, and I love the single coil mode. Lovely. So what can I tell you right off the bat? The good things about this bass, it plays beautifully and it sounds wonderful. Now, here's the problems. Number one, this bass has marks in the back of the neck. I don't know how well you'll be able to see them, but there's tool marks here and up to here that look like it was hit with the tool or leaned against the edge of a table, and there's little dents into the wood. That's not acceptable on a bass of this price, you know, at all. The frets, the way the frets are installed, I think the fret tangs are cut away from the edge of the fingerboard, which in case of any fret sprout, it makes things a little bit easier to deal with. It's a common way that a lot of people install their frets. And what they've done to fill in the little gap between the edge of the fingerboard and the tang of the fret, they use a little bit of filler, but the filler isn't put in there very well, and now there's little traces of filler and smudges up the side of the fretboard, and unfortunately they are underneath the varnish clear coat, which means the only way to remove them is to strip back some of the varnish. I'm not happy with that, you know. It's not the end of the world. In fact, with my glasses off, I can't even see it. But then again, I'm going blind because I'm 50 now. Anyway, so you've got that. And the other problem, the fret ends are okay. There's a little sharpness in a couple of places. And you know what? I don't mind that too much. It's easy enough to fix. It's not a major problem. And with any piece of wood from any manufacturer in any price range, you always have the possibility of a little bit of shrinkage of the wood, which means the ends of the frets protrude a little bit. We call that fret sprout. It can happen all the time, you know. It's going to be less common on the more expensive bases and more common on the cheaper bases. And if it gets bad enough, I mean, it can actually cut your skin. Not that bad on this at all. It's pretty good, all things considered, actually, you know, but I will make a small change to that. The other problem that I have here with the frets on this bass is that they have never been polished or sanded whatsoever. The leveling is perfect, the crowning is great, but usually after, when we do fret work, we do the leveling, and we crown each fret, and then we're going to sand back to get rid of the tooling marks from before, and then we're going to go progressively finer in sanding grits until we get a mirror polish on the frets. That final process of the sanding and polishing was never done. So these frets feel a little gritty under the fingers. They don't look nice. They don't look clean. They have a very matte finish on them. And again, on a bass that here in Europe is selling for anywhere between 800 and 1,000 euros, that is not acceptable. No, siree, Bob. No way. So now those are issues I can happily deal with myself, except if I do that, I'm going to ruin my warranty. My warranty will no longer be valid if I do the work on this myself, even though I'm a professional. But there you go. That's the way warranties work. They want to make sure that the warranty work is done by the appropriate people. The other thing is that this is one of the last of these instruments in stock in France right now, and they're not expecting any new stock in until at least May, and we're in the middle of March. I don't want to be that long without a bass. And as I said, I have fallen in love with how easy this bass is to play and how wonderful it sounds. I don't want to give it up. So we have to wait and see what happens. What is there to tell you about the bass? The paintwork is okay. You know, it's not stunning. It's more or less acceptable for the price that you'd expect. There are a couple of areas on the bass, though, where there's a lot of sort of microfine scratches, like somebody took some steel wool and ran it across the... And it's not in places it's obvious, but, you know, on the back of the horn, on the tummy cut, there's a couple of marks down here. And again, on a bass of this price, that is completely unacceptable. That's not, no. So anyway, we're waiting to see. Maybe they'll give me a partial refund or send me a couple of packets of strings, whatever. I kind of got it at a cheap price as it was, but it was marked as a brand new bass, and therefore I expect it to be in brand new bass condition. I expect it to be in the condition that any bass being sold at 800 to 1,000 euros is going to be. This bass should be on a par with similar basses by Fender or PRS, or it's quite high-priced Sire basses, you know. So yeah, I expected better of this. I'm a little disappointed. I am delighted, as I said before, with how the bass sounds and how the bass plays. Like I said, right out of the box, the setup was excellent. I mean, truly excellent. If somebody gave me the bass and said, would you hire this person as a guitar tech? I would say, yes, absolutely, straight away. You know, whoever did the setup did a good job. Things I would change the nut. The nut material seems a little too soft to my taste, even though the nut slots have been cut right. If you look at close-up photographs of this on music stores, look at close-up photographs of the nut and you'll see how the nut sort of splays and it's soft material. That'll come out. The tuners are good. I like the feel of the tuners. They're solid, they're smooth, and they hold their pitch beautifully. You know, the tuners are great. I don't need to touch those. They're really nice. Does the bass have a little bit of neck dive? Yeah, as you can see, it does have a little. If you go for lighter tuners, you're going to have to find ones that fit the posts and, you know, all the holes and whatnot. I'm quite happy with it as it is. It's not a problem. What else can I tell you? It's a great bass. I really like it. But if you're going to buy a bass like this, here's your takeaway. If you're going to buy one of these basses, buy it from a store where you get to see the bass first. If there are issues like the frets need a polish or a fret end dressing, have them dealt with by the store, or have the store take off, you know, 60 to $100 off the price so that you can get a good guitar tech to do the job for you. It's a shame that this has to happen on any bass. It's the type of thing we expect from the cheapest basses. By the way, folks, don't buy cheap basses. Don't buy any bass less than 200. Any guitar whatsoever of any description, electric, acoustic, or bass, don't buy them under 200 bucks. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. I don't think so. They're difficult to play. They're uncomfortable sometimes. They just require so much work. You'll put twice as much money into a good guitar tech to make one of those instruments play well than the actual cost of the bass. So it's always disappointing, but that seems to be the case. What's the name of the wonderful bald guy at Crimson Guitars? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'm sorry. As he says, he doesn't think that there's any instrument under about £1,000, because he's in Britain, they still use pounds, under £1,000 that doesn't require some fretwork. That's not something I like to hear from somebody who's so well regarded in the industry. Not because of what he said, but because it's probably true, you know? That's kind of a shame. As I said, on this bass, at the whatever, about 800 euros I paid for it, no. Frets need to be polished. There shouldn't be dents in the back of the headstock. No, you know. that's not on. Anyway, there we go. I am now hitting the wall. Here's the long COVID. This is what we call the long COVID screensaver with my eyes shut. It's kind of like the brain is saying I need to save energy in a hurry. Anyway, I like these bases. I really do. I would not buy the cheapest level of Sterling by Music Man bass. I haven't seen one in the flesh, but if this one's anything to go by, no, I wouldn't buy the cheapest level, you know. The Ray 24, 34, 25, 35, or this one are probably really good basses. But if you're buying sight unseen, be prepared to send one back if necessary. And that's kind of always the case if you're buying by internet, you know. Buy from a store. It has a good reputation for good customer service and makes it easy to return things. Or make sure you buy from a store where you get to go in and see the instrument and see what it's like. Check that the frets are polished. Run your finger up and down the edge of the frets, and also this way, coming up vertically off the board. Look for the fret edges, okay? Look for sharp fret edges and make sure that they fix that for you before you leave the store, all right? Like I said, this is the type of thing that we have a reasonable expectation of when we buy the bass. Things are supposed to be correct. On the cheapest level basses, are they going to do a fret polish? No, don't worry about it. You can do it at home, provided the frets are okay. But the fret leveling may not be okay. The cheaper the bass, the more likely you are to have a high fret somewhere and a really nasty buzz within 1 or 2 frets of that. So, you know, it's important that every consumer, that's us, every customer, every buyer of instruments is aware of the potential problems and pitfalls. Okay? There we go. Who did I buy from? I bought from Bax, B-A-X, Bax.fr. Bax.fr. Why did I buy from Bax? Because they had bass in stock in the color I wanted. Nobody else did. Here we go. Now, fortunately in Europe, warranties exist and we have customer service laws. You know, you have a guaranteed minimum warranty period of 2 years. You know, and that's against defects in workmanship. At Bax, there's a 30-day, no questions asked, refund policy. You know, if I just don't like the bass, I can send it back. Provided it goes back in the same condition it came to me, that's fine. I don't want to send this bass back because I've fallen in love with how it feels and how it sounds. So there you go. Right, time for me to finish up. I need to go lie down. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're all well and healthy and stay healthy and just keep on playing and rocking, all right? Take care of yourselves and call your mom and tell her I said hi. Ciao, boys. Bye-bye. Boys? Why did I say boys? I don't know what the hell I said boys for. Oh, I know why, because 99.9% of all my clients, or not my clients, my viewers, according to YouTube, are all men. Women play too, okay? We need to make the world a little more friendly for female musicians. Ciao, everybody. Goodbye.